2 months ago, the mega pizzaplex had burned down. Robots were shattered, and seemingly millions of dollars were washed down the drain, for lack of a better term. Lucky for you and the other human employees of the mega pizzaplex, minus Vanessa, was currently in the hospital and under investigation. Management had decided to rebuild. Luckily for your bank account, and sadly for your own sanity, the company had also decided that the guards should still attend their shifts in the ruins of the pizzaplex. This, however, gave you the opportunity of seeing how the repairs of the entertainment paradise evolved. It gave you a strange comfort seeing the slow cleanup, followed by tarps and construction materials, to finally the lights being turned back on, which, as a matter of fact, would happen tonight. The employees were excited. So were the main animatronics. Especially Roxy was excited, as she at least no longer had to share one working charging station with all of the others. You had just arrived. Luckily, it was your shift. With your flashlight in your hand, you marched through the lobby. Your goal, parts and services. Hopefully starting tonight, you no longer needed to take up shop in there, as it had been the only place spared by the Inferno. While still a lot of furniture and decoration were still missing, by now the pizzaplex looked a lot like its former self. You accessed parts and services over the maintenance tunnels, and once inside the dingy, barely ventilated hotbox, you immediately noticed day shift guard Brian sitting on the air mattress he had brought a month ago. Out of all the employees of the mega pizzaplex, Brian was the most loyal. So in an attempt to observe the repairs, he had taken both day and night shifts as often as he could. The man had heavy bags under his eyes, but no matter how tired Brian was, his attitude remained laid back and non-caring as always. He greeted you with a short wave. "Hey, night guard," he exclaimed, voice hoarse from a lack of sleep. "Here to take over?" You shrugged and smiled. I mean, now's the best time as ever, huh? Brian nodded. "Yeah. On my break I went to that weed shop at the other end of town." You blinked. "No, I mean they are turning on the lights." Brian blinked. "Oh yeah, forgot." You sighed. "Brian, you need sleep." The man smirked and laid back. "Sure thing, Mom." Sarcastically, he pulled his cap down to cover his eyes. Once again, you sighed. "Where's Kevin? Isn't he supposed to turn on the lights?" "Somewhere in the maintenance tunnels making a last check before turning everything on," mumbled your co-worker. Kevin was one of the on-duty engineers for the animatronics. Just like Brian, the man had spent all day and night here. You sat down next to your co-worker on his mattress. "Well, all we can do is wait," you said with a chuckle. After a few minutes of quietly sitting, you turned towards him. "So what was this about weed?" The man smiled and sat up. "Want some?" Yeah, want some!" Fazbear Entertainment checked very rarely if their employees were using drugs, which was one of the reasons so many teenagers and young adults wanted to work for the company, even if it meant night shifts for 10 to 20 years. At first, the thought of working as a night guard for about 20 years sounded very threatening to you. Even now, the simple fact you'd most likely be working here until your early 50s, or maybe even until retirement, was scary. As your mind was filled with thoughts of the future, Brian rolled one out for you. Despite your regular consume of the devil's lettuce, you still were pretty bad at rolling a good J, and preferred using pipes. Brian lit it up. took a deep drag, so he'd actually feel more than just the tip of it. You watched as a few black particles of ash fell off of his magic stick, and then offered it to you. You thanked him and took a hit yourself. You coughed, not expecting such a large amount of weed. Dude, do you want to kill me? You know I like mine 50-50. Brian shrugged. If you can handle it, don't ask. Also, it's nicotine that's actually the deadly part. He patted you on the back and then sighed. Come on, just take another one. You really didn't want to, but peer pressure and all. Just as you placed it back in your mouth, however, one of the doors to parts and surfaces opened.
Excuse me, day guard, but...
It was the newly reconstructed Gramrock Freddy, as the original one went missing during the fire.
Ah, the night guard is here too.
He tilted his head.
What is that?
His eyes focused on your joint. You looked at it, feeling like your hand got caught in a cookie jar.
Is that a weed?
Brian chuckled. He's got you now. You looked at your coworker helplessly. Of course, the man knew nothing bad would happen to you. Freddy wasn't programmed to fire you, and he was way too loyal to the guards to tattle. Of course, you didn't know that yet. That's why he did what he did next. Well, I gotta go. Brian stood up and winked at you. Meanwhile, Freddy approached you with a concerned expression.
Night guard.
He sounded very disappointed. He had his hands placed on his hips like a sassy housewife. Noticing this, you chuckled.
That is very inappropriate.
Why was this so funny to you? Come on, Freddy. It's Brian's weed, you said in defense. Freddy looked over at Brian, whose hands were on the exit handle. I'm off duty since she came in, so doesn't concern me.
Well, he is correct about that. Fazbear Entertainment will not punish misbehavior from employees outside of working hours as long as the reputation of the company is unaffected.
Asshole! You shouted at the day shift guard. You and me both, bud. And with that, he left you alone. He was gonna pay for this. At first, you had an upset animatronic to deal with. Quickly you noticed that he hasn't taken it from you yet. So, what now? Freddy blinked.
I am programmed to remind you on all potential health issues you might procure from the consumption of drugs.
Okay. You furrowed your brows. And? Is that it?
And I'm very, very disappointed with you.
You chuckled, took another hit, managed to not cough, before playfully saying, "Oh, fuck you, Dad, you don't know me." You broke out into violent laughter as Freddy attempted to formulate a response to that.
I don't know what to say to that. I'm not programmed for this situation.
Maybe Brian's material was getting to you already. What stuff did you inhale outside of working hours if this was already hitting you like a brick wall? A cozy feeling of warmth overcame you.
Well, I am programmed to respond to being called Dad,
said Freddy. And your interest was awoken. Oh, do tell.
I'm supposed to gently point the child into their actual father's direction.
You blinked. And if they don't have one? Or if he's not present?
Statistically, there's a 79% chance the child is not only here with their father, but also both parents In the unique situation, there is no father present, either due to bad circumstances by the family, or by simply the father being unable to attend, I am supposed to reply with reinforcement to make the child happy.
You giggled. Well, my dad isn't here, is he? The guy was probably inside one of his secretaries while your mom watched through a crack in the door. So what now? You asked smugly. Freddy took an embarrassed step backwards.
Night guard!
He exclaimed as you took another hit. Come on, Freddy. You exhaled. You looked at your J, and really was getting smoother now. You returned your attention to Freddy, who looked like he was blushing, if he had the capacity to do so, of course. Well, go on, big guy. Reinforce me. Freddy blinked, trying to process your request.
I'm supposed to reprimand you for the use of that?
He pointed at the spiffy, which already had over half of it missing. You leaned forward and seductively said, Well, Daddy, reprimand me. His eyes narrowed. A smug reply like that from a rebellious employee, there he had plenty responses programmed into him. But considering the fact that he liked you, he calculated the following response.
If I could, I would ground you, Missy. That's how disappointed I am.
You laughed out loud and stood up, throwing yourself against his chest plate, making puppy eyes. But Dad!
No buts.
But Dad! You sounded more demanding. But then, anyways, do you want some? You asked with a bright smile, holding up the blunt. Freddy blinked.
No. Besides, I would not feel anything.
To demonstrate, he gently tapped his shell. I am a machine. You sighed. Such a painful reminder.
But I am curious as to how it feels. Would you mind explaining?
Looking down at yourself for a moment, you thought hard about how to formulate it. Brian is used to the hard stuff, so I'm feeling more relaxed than ever. My limbs feel heavy, and colors, and the colors! You almost fell backwards with a dumb grin.
There aren't a lot of colors in parts and surfaces.
Just wait until Kevin turns on the lights, jeez. You sighed deeply, but then Freddy spoke up again.
Is that really Brian's?
You furrowed your brows, perplexed. Yes?
But he works mostly at the daycare. That's very irresponsible. Not to mention, he doesn't seem like the type of guy to do that. He doesn't need it.
You burst out laughing. Brian is always high, 24/7. The reason he doesn't seem like the type is because you never saw him without it. You sighed dramatically. Brian is the biggest pothead I know. Besides, how else do you expect a guy like him to be able to deal with those brats? Quietly added, not to mention while also being very good at it. The stuff I buy and use outside of work usually makes me more hyper and happy, so that I can fully enjoy my time off until it's, bedtime in the early evening. Freddy tilted his head.
I see. That is actually very interesting, Night Guard.
You helplessly smiled. Yeah, but please don't save this into your archives, got it? Only short-term data, please.
Request granted.
Anyways, do you know when Kevin will turn on the lights? His eyes perked up excitedly.
I know. That's why I wanted to get Brian.
You blinked.
My systems are reporting the lights will be turned on shortly.
Well, what are we waiting for, Slowpaws? We gotta... You took a step forward, but your body felt too lethargic from Brian's good stuff. Noticing you were about to lose balance, Freddy quickly grabbed you by the neck of your shirt. You gagged as your windpipe was squeezed by the fabric. Worst of all, however, you dropped your hippie candle. Once back on solid ground, Freddy quickly decided for you that it's best if he carry you. You, of course, were ecstatic upon hearing the proposal, but then he kneeled down and quickly swept you off your feet. One of his massive hands was placed around your shoulder, the other under your knees. This pose was so embarrassing. You slapped both hands on your face and blushed deeply. "Oh, Freddy!" you complained. "Why did you need to carry me like this?" Thank God there was no one in the Pizzaplex, but you and the robots. You would have died of shame if anybody would see you like this. Then you remembered Kevin was still somewhere doing maintenance. Hopefully he would stay there until Freddy was done trying to be a father figure. Gently, the animatronic carried you upstairs towards the atrium. It was empty, with the exception of the sleeping DJ Music Man. The massive animatronic had been responsible for keeping the animatronic safe from the flames, which meant less damage overall, all thanks to him. The giant spider animatronic was sleeping, however, and would not wake up until the West Arcade had been made fully functional once more. Freddy carried you past him onto the 3rd floor of the atrium, where the big DJ set stood. Quickly, the bear robot pulled up a chair for you to sit on.
Your eyes are really red,
he pointed out. You blinked twice before rubbing your eyes. "Better?"
"No,"
was all he had to say. Right now it was still incredibly dark. Only a handful of emergency lights were on, giving the atrium a liminal feeling that was mostly horror-inducing. But the smell of new was everywhere. It excited you. "Freddy," you said. "How long?" He blinked. "Contacting employee tablet." Freddy blinked a few more times as he sent out the request. "Any minute now," said Kevin. Giddy like a child, you jumped up and down on the chair.
3,
said Freddy.
2,
Oh boy, oh boy.
1.
The noise of activity erupted throughout the mega Pizzaplex as all lights turned on at the same time. Your eyes were blinded for a few seconds. You jumped backwards, shielding your eyes with your hands. But once you got used to all the lights, the first thing that you saw was the beautiful display of the holographic performers floating above the stage. Your eyes widened. After looking at the ruins for 2 months, you could finally appreciate the wonders of the mega Pizzaplex for what they were, and, well, now are. Freddy, hold me. I think I'm gonna cry, you said, as tears filled your eyes. Once more, Freddy stepped closer to you, this time picking you up like a toddler. Against your will, of course. Freddy, you complained. One of his hands was right under your butt, while the other stabilized you by taking hold of your hips. Pushed against his shell, you closed your eyes for a moment. In your baked state, he felt so soft. You purred. Quickly becoming needy for more comfort. Freddy, you mumbled.
Yes, Nightguard?
I can't see the stage like this. Freddy chuckled and turned around, so you could peek at the holograms and lights from the atrium's other attractions from behind his shoulder. So magical. I can see why they wanted to repair all this.
You should be glad they did. Otherwise, I would not have been made. And you'd be out of the job.
Humming, you rubbed your cheek against his shoulder blade.
Night guard?
Hey, big guy. Can you rub over my back? Freddy nodded. Gently, his large hand moved up and down your backside. You groaned in pleasure.
Night guard?
He asked, slightly weirded out by the noises you were producing. Not now. I'm feeling...
Feeling what?
Your heartbeat increased slightly. Feeling good. You were getting a little sleepy. Freddy? He asked after a while.
Yes, night guard? Actually, I thought you had fallen asleep, to be honest. I was about to wake you up.
You giggled. Well, I wasn't sleeping just yet, but... You lifted yourself off of his shoulder to look into his glowing yellow eyes. I was going to ask you something, but then I remembered. Technically, I don't need to ask for permission. He blinked.
And what is that?
Without answering, you lunged the few inches that separated you from him, pressing your lips against his facial plates.
What are you doing, night guard?
Asked Freddy, surprised. I'm kissing you, you big oaf, you said as you separated from him. It's such a romantic moment, don't you think? You smirked and needily looked into his eyes. Didn't you like it, Freddy? He blinked.
I did.
He sounded confused.
But I shouldn't.
You snickered. You must really, really like me then. The animatronics functioned like video game characters, meaning the more nice things you did or said, the more they would let you do with them. This was to enhance customer experience, to ensure people would come visit multiple times a month. Freddy tilted his head.
Yes, I am programmed to allow little kisses from the children. They will put their mouths on anything they like, after all. But I didn't expect an adult to do that.
He looked down at the floor in embarrassment, and you blushed a little at the cute gesture.
I'm under the impression that adults have more underlying reasons for doing such things.
You grinned cheekily. Maybe you were a little in the mood thanks to the weed. You pressed your body against his. Reasons like what? You hummed. He made a noise somewhere between amusement and discomfort.
I'm not programmed to say at least 2/3 of potential reasons.
And then tell me one of them. He sighed.
Love is a reason. There are many fans of our franchise who would do such things if they could.
He shivered. You smirked. Well, did you like it, big guy? He shrugged and smiled.
If possible, I wouldn't mind another one.
Oh, you were going to have fun tonight.